Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Wednesday, August 22nd, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. Many of us hear about breast cancer, lung cancer, and other types of common cancers. But local residents and doctors are trying to raise awareness about another form of this disease that affects thousands of women each year. The Tucson chapter of the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition and other groups are holding a symposium about this topic next Saturday, September 1st at the University of Arizona Cancer Center. Earlier this week, we spoke to a doctor and an ovarian cancer survivor. Margaret Heft and Dr. Michael Bookman, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's begin with you, doctor. If you could tell us a little bit about what is ovarian cancer and how is it different than compared to other cancers that we know more about?
Yeah, that's a good point to start with. Most cancers are actually detected at an early stage before they've had a chance to spread. And that means the cure rate from surgery is usually quite high. Ovarian cancer is fundamentally different. It starts even at a very small early point in time to spread within the peritoneal or the abdominal cavity. And often it grows without causing any symptoms until there's fairly extensive disease involvement. And so women and their family and physicians are not generally aware that the cancer might be there and spreading, and it's often detected then at an advanced stage. So we're very interested in developing new treatments to sort of control disease, extend survival, and improve long-term outcomes for our patients. And it's a very much of a multidisciplinary team approach.
And the National Cancer Institute estimates that there will be approximately more than 20,000 new cases this year?
Yeah, that's correct. Probably closer to 24,000. And of interest, about 10 times as many cases of breast cancer will be described during that time. And it kind of underscores a little bit that even though this is not as common a cancer, it is more likely to be difficult to cure. And so we're dealing with many more serious cases in the ovarian cancer population than in, for example, the breast cancer population.
And Margaret, you are a cancer survivor. Can you tell us a little bit about your situation? When did you find out and what did you have to do next?
Yes, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 3C, in November of 2004. And that puts me like a 7-year survivor right now, which at that stage is rather unusual. It's probably, I'm in the 30 percentile of people that are still around, which makes me then an advocate for everybody because I'm fortunate, I'm very fortunate. I don't think there's anything I did exactly except perhaps have a GYN oncologist do my surgery and follow me. That's very important. But it's been a long, very good few years because I did not recur, and I have not yet, but not out of the woods because I know 2 women who have recurred after 9 years and after 12 years.
And that's a good example because stage 3C is the most common stage that women actually are diagnosed with this disease. And it requires pretty aggressive surgery to go in and remove as many of the deposits of tumor tissue as you can, and then after that to follow with chemotherapy. And so it's a big commitment for patients to go through this type of treatment.
And we were talking about that prior to this interview. You just mentioned the detection is rather difficult, and then also the treatment. What are the treatment options?
Yeah, we wish we had an effective screening test that could catch the disease at an earlier point in time. And I think that the biology of the cancer has a lot to do with that, but it's not at all like cervical cancer where you can do a pap smear, or with colon cancer checking for blood, or bleeding that can occur with endometrial cancer, mammography for breast cancer, etc. We don't have those kind of tools yet in ovarian cancer. There is a serum tumor marker, CA125, and other markers that people are evaluating in some sophisticated screening studies that perhaps in the future may be useful, and particularly when they're coupled with transvaginal ultrasound, which lets you take a very detailed high-resolution picture of the ovary so you can tell a benign cyst or fibroid from something that's more serious and might require surgery.
And Margaret, you are committed to this topic. You are working as a volunteer right now. And what would you like to tell people about this? If you could have a message out there, what would it be?
Do I have an hour? Basically, we all need to know the symptoms. Because yes, even though the symptoms don't show up maybe till it is a later stage, most of us who have these symptoms we don't think about them as being ovarian cancer because it's digestive system symptoms. For instance, you might have indigestion, diarrhea, constipation. You could have bladder problems and have to urinate more and more and more and more and think, what's wrong with me? You can be bloated, which is the big one. And you feel, well, my mother was bloated. Well, probably that's the way I am. So there are a lot of, and fatigue is another huge one. Fatigue beyond the word fatigue. It's amazing. I used to have to stop on the way home driving because I would fall asleep at the wheel. I thought, what is wrong with me? That was the main thing. We all say, what is wrong? And we don't know. So we go to the doctor and we try to find out what's wrong. But the problem is that ovarian cancer is very sneaky and secretive. And it will, it'll show up in all different places that you can't imagine.
And someone in a situation like that could see their doctor and have an annual exam, including an internal pelvic exam, and the doctor might feel that everything seems normal. Mm-hmm. And so it's a little bit of a paradox.
Okay, so if you could, Margaret, what about this ovarian cancer symposium that's going to be held in a few days?
Yes, it is. Thanks, Dr. Bookman.
Teamwork.
We are having a symposium at the Keywood Auditorium at UMC, and it's for ovarian cancer survivors, families, and interested people. And it's going to be 3 different panels. We have 8 specialists coming, from UMC and also from Arizona Oncology. So they're going to divide up into 3 different panels. And they will then speak about all the things from symptoms to genetics, to recurrence. It's like the whole picture in a very short time, being only in the morning, but a free breakfast, light and healthy. And also, we already have 68 people that have signed up for this.
Okay, great. And this is going to be held on Saturday, September 1st. We will have more information on our website. Thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with the symposium.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Once again, the free symposium is Saturday, September 1st from 8 in the morning until noon at the Arizona Cancer Center. However, if you would like to attend, organizers need you to RSVP. For that, please contact the Tucson chapter of the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition. Now that school is back in session, many students are counting on essential learning tools like books and computers. But some students at Pima Community College are using a donated airplane as an important educational device. Caitlin Harrington has an interview with the manager of the Aviation Program at PCC, as well as a participant in that program.
Joining me in studio today is Thomas Hinman. He is the Aviation Program Manager at Pima Community College, and Ryan Miles, a recent graduate of the program. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Tom, I'm going to talk to you first. There's been some really exciting things going on for the Aviation Program with the recent commencement, and you also received a very cool donation recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We did. The Federal Express Corporation looked at some 200 other entities and came to the conclusion that the program that Pima College is delivering to the people of Pima County was meritorious enough to merit an $800,000 donation. And the airplane is a commercial jet transport, holds about 180 people when it's passenger configured, and is about just under $1 million in value. No small cup of tea. It represents a big investment in the people of Pima County.
And Tom, we talked prior to this interview about the differences between Pima's aviation program, maybe some other schools. Mm-hmm. And can you talk to us a little bit about how you're going to be applying that to this donation that you just got and working hands-on with it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the majority of some 50 schools have received donations similar to ours over the last 10 or 15 years. And of those, I think only a handful actually work on the airplanes. Most of them just park the airplane in a corner and they use it for picture-taking opportunities with their students. That is not the case with Pima College. The capstone of our program, these students are actually out running up the jet engines. If you've ever ridden on an American Airlines, United, Delta, if you've ridden commercially, when you land at the airport, some technical person is out there catching the airplane, we call it, reviewing the logbooks, fixing anything that's wrong, running up the engines, get the airplane ready to go for its next flight, and then they hand over the airplane to the flight crew. That's the capstone of our program. I think that's what makes us very different.
Ryan, can you talk to me a little bit about what first got you interested in aviation? and you just finished the program also. So tell us a little bit about what got you interested and what were some of your most favorite classes?
Well, first I got interested in middle school, and I'm like, man, planes are cool, man. It'd be great to work on them. Then I went to Catalina, and they had a program there, an aviation program that had structures and stuff, and it was just great, and I liked it. And I actually got to fly my freshman year, so that was pretty cool. And then from there, I went to Pima, and you get kind of nervous at first, like, can I do it, whatever, but I was like, I'm just going to go for it and do it. And got in there, and I loved it. It was great. The teachers were great. They were very informative. Got to do a lot of projects and stuff.
And you had a structures class. You said that was kind of your most interesting class. Can you talk to us about some of the different things you worked on in that class?
Well, yeah. The biggest thing I didn't actually get to bring it with me today was a control service. It controls how the plane pitches up and down. And today I brought a bracket that you can put avionics equipment in there, just bolt it into the aircraft. It's more complicated than it looks. You got to do a lot of stuff with it, but that was cool. And then we had a composites class, which is the other stuff in front of you right here. This is Kevlar, and this is carbon fiber. This is the future of aviation. Most of our aircrafts are going to be made out of this. So if you learn how to do this, you basically you're pretty set in the future. There's a lot of job opportunity out there if you're willing to go work for it, and it's just really cool. You do a lot of hands-on. If you love doing hands-on stuff, this is for you.
And can you talk to us about this piece up front here? You got to do kind of a fun project with some of the stuff that you learned. Is that right?
Yeah. I just decided to have fun with my teacher, Mark. He's at the very end when you finish the composite course. If you finish enough time, it's actually a required project, but he's like, you can do anything you want. So I was like, well, let's have a little fun with it. So I decided to make a shield. This is a plug right here, and this is the end result right here when you bring all your skills together. So he actually said that's one of the more difficult projects he's ever seen before, and you just kind of lay it out and have fun with it, and that's the result. And it's really fun.
Ryan, although you just graduated the aviation program, you're continuing your education, and we talked earlier about maybe some advice that you'd give to students who are a little intimidated of the aviation program and what you'd have to do to make your way through it.
You know what? I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. But if you're focused, and just like anything else you do, what you put into it, what you can add into it, you'll be great. You know what I mean? If you like working with your hands, if you don't mind focusing on something for a while and really going after something, you can do it. Anyone can do it. You just have to apply yourself, just like anything else. So my advice to everyone out there, you can't beat the price. For the program, it's like for what you learn, what you get out of it, the price is nothing.
And Tom, you mentioned that you're not just giving them skill set, you're giving them a little more than that. You're building leaders, you said. Can you talk to us about that as well?
Well, you can find supervisors everywhere. You can't swing a stick without hitting a supervisor somewhere. And they teach supervisors how to manage resources. Leadership's a completely different ballgame. And when it comes to aviation, the decisions that these young people are making on the airplanes, the consequences for a bad decision will not only be borne by themselves in terms of they can be held personally responsible, liable, they could even go to jail. But the consequences, maybe more importantly, are usually borne by the people that are riding on the airplanes, and they're life or death decisions sometimes. So we're not only interested in instilling a depth of technical ability, but we're interested in instilling a quality of character in our young people.
Tom and Ryan, I thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Tucson is widely known as a bicycle-friendly community, but how does the Phoenix metropolitan area measure up? We have some answers tonight in this segment from our sister television station in Phoenix, KAET.
I can't remember a time in my life where I really never owned a bike.
John Romero calls himself a lifestyle cyclist. He rides to compete, and he rides just for the fun of it.
The same reason people run, same reason people hike. It floods the brain and the body with endorphins. It's just the sheer enjoyment of just being outdoors, in the wind, moving.
Romero also rides to work on a regular basis.
Well, I start out near South Mountain, near 20th Street in South Mountain.
It's a 12-mile trek to downtown Tempe. The trick to getting there safely is knowing the best way to go.
Exactly. Low density traffic, 2-lane roads as opposed to 4-lane thoroughfares.
Romero cuts through neighborhoods and follows paths along canals as much as possible. When he's ready to cross over Interstate 10, he rides in a lane marked with sharrows.
So the sharrows were to indicate that even though there's no bike lane here, bikes are still coming through here and, yield to them. Allow them to use the lane. There's signs posted that say, that show a picture of a bicycle and says, may use full lane.
Romero doesn't give Valley drivers very high marks for knowing how to share the road with bikes.
I would say poor. It also depends on the area you're in. Tempe's a very bike-heavy community. People are far more aware. There's a lot more people here that bike. Like when I ride on the west side of I-17, not so good. There's not such good bike infrastructure. There's a lot less awareness. I think Scottsdale, is another great place to ride, but there's a lot of impatient drivers there too. Big vehicles, moving fast, and sometimes they just don't give you the right of way that you should get.
When Romero reaches his workplace in downtown Tempe, he doesn't have to shift gears at all. That's because his job is bicycle advocacy. He's co-founder of the Bicycle Cellar, a bike shop located on the first floor of the Tempe Transportation Center. It's a public-private partnership with the city that gives commuters a place to store their bikes and get cleaned up before they head into work.
You come here, you can park your bike, it's safe, you get key card access, you can access the facility 20 hours a day, 365 days a year. Here's one of the shower facilities.
So I can change after my morning exercise, change into some clean clothes, and then head into work.
The cyclists we talked to said the Valley's a pretty good place to ride, but there's plenty of room for improvement.
There are some challenges. So like intersections where there's not bike lanes, you have to be really careful because motorists may not see you or may run into you or turn in front of you.
That's my scariest moment, is crossing major intersections where the bike lanes disappear and turn into turn lanes for cars.
A lot of cyclists, they say it's a great place to ride. The weather's so good. Heat aside, we have 9 months of spring. I think it increases the quality of living when a city can say, we live in a bikeable community. It's family friendly, it's bike friendly, it's tourist friendly. Those sort of livability qualities for a city, they're invaluable.
Here now to talk about bicycling in the Valley is Reed Kempton, a transportation planner for Scottsdale and chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee for the Maricopa Association of Governments. Eric Iverson, a principal planner in community development for the city of Tempe, and Joseph Perez, bicycle coordinator for the city of Phoenix and co-founder of the Bicycle Cellar. Good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank
we
you.
want to start with you. We just saw a lot of folks look like they're getting the job done there bicycling. How does the Valley compare to other regions?
We think we're really high. We have several cities in the Valley that are rated by the League of American Bicyclists as bicycle-friendly communities. And the improvements we made in the past 2 decades are just tremendous. We went from 400-something miles of bike facilities in 1992 to almost 3,000 today.
Very good. What can we do better, though? Where's the areas for improvement?
I think there's been a tremendous effort in the last 15 years to have regional coordination, have all the cities working together. There's also been a big push by several cities and the region to fund these types of projects. And I think that to get better, we should continue that focus of funding projects and have that political and community support and pull it all together more and keep moving in that direction.
Let's talk about some of these projects. I know Phoenix and Tempe kind of have this boulevard, this bicycle boulevard going on here. What's happening? What's that all about?
Oh, the Bike Boulevard is this great way to get from Tempe to Glendale through downtown Phoenix. It's about 4.6 miles using Roosevelt and Fillmore, connecting to 5th Avenue, bike lane, 3rd Avenue, bike lane, north-south. It's really neat. It's somewhat experimental. We're using green paint, and it's pretty neat the way we're combining shared lane markings with green paint to put something where a bike lane is not currently.
Okay, how much does something like that cost?
Well, depending on what we're doing, bike lanes cost about $1,000 per side per mile. This particular green paint is a little more expensive, a little wider. The shared lane markings are a little wider. Those are $250 each. And the green paint was probably a couple $1,000s, I think, for the paint.
Let's talk other areas of improvement. I know Mag has a map, a bicycle map out there. How much does that help? Is that a factor? Do people look at these kinds of things?
I think they do, especially if they're just thinking about starting to commute to work. They pull down the map, and they're all available online. And a lot of people call us at our cities and say, how can I get to work from here? This is where I live. And those that have been riding a lot can help out. And we try to keep people off the major streets, but in a lot of cases, that's the only way you're going to cross our rivers and our freeways.
I know Tempe did what was called a bike count, which seemed like it was a survey and some very interesting things in there. What did you find regarding cycling habits, the concerns out there? It sounds like people are riding on the wrong side of the road all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a real common problem, riding against the flow of traffic. And I think a big reason why people are doing that is they feel like they don't have a safe way to get from point A to point B. And so it's a matter of having enough facilities on every road, having safe facilities on every road, and having the ability to cross a road at convenient points so people can get to the right side of the road to go with the flow of traffic. So it's removing obstacles like freeways, railroad tracks, and getting over those things easily so that you can go with the flow of traffic.
What makes a dangerous intersection? What makes a safe intersection? And how can cities, municipalities keep the traffic moving, but keep the bikes moving too?
Well, it's certainly not safe when you're riding against the flow of traffic. Bicyclists should realize that that's the easiest way for them to get into a collision with cars, is riding against traffic. So they should always ride on the right side of the street with the flow of traffic. What makes an intersection more or less safe is depending on how many cars are going through the intersection, what kind of signalization is happening, if it's a left turn arrow versus a solid green ball, or if there are intersecting arterial streets. Arterial intersections are much more risky than a collector or a local. So if I'm riding a bike, I usually like to ride back streets. I don't like to ride down 7th Avenue or 7th Street. I like to ride down 3rd Avenue or 5th Avenue or 3rd Street.
And again, when you talk about what makes a safe intersection, what makes a dangerous intersection, 7th Avenue, 7th Street seems a little dicey for some cyclists. What makes a safe street, and how can municipalities encourage that kind of change?
Bicycle comfort is based on three things: the speed of the traffic, the volume of the traffic, and the width of the outside travel lane. So if the wider that outside travel lane is, the more comfortable it's going to be for the bicyclist. So if we have a street that has, let's say, 15-foot lanes, we'd narrow them down to 10 or 11 foot and make room for the bike lane on the side. So that gives the cyclist a place to ride. And it's the little things, like when you approach an intersection, we keep the bike lane between the right turn lane and the through travel lane. That gives the cyclist very clear spot to be when they're at the intersection.
And that gets to things like buffer lanes, correct? The idea of separating the bike from the traffic with a little lane, a couple of lines. Is that what that is?
Yeah, and certainly that's a technology that can be used, and having a separator between your bike lane and the rest of the vehicle lanes. But I think the larger issue is, how do you make a street safer? How do you make an intersection safer? And we've been building them a certain way for 50 years, 75 years, and that was to encourage faster traffic and more vehicle traffic. And I think we have to be conscientious to try and recharacterize streets a little bit more towards having them include all types of travel on those streets, making it safer for all types of travel on those streets. So it's kind of it's really a redesign and a recharacterization of how we're thinking about our intersections and our streets.
Last question here, about 30 seconds left here. Are city leaders thinking along the same lines, or is it a battle?
No, certainly city leaders are thinking about this in the same lines. Recently, Councilman Simplot, Councilman Gates, and I, we all went on a bike ride down Central Avenue in honor of a young boy named Diego, and it was a great Saturday morning ride, about 3 miles down Central from Dunlap to Camelback, and it's coming. The leadership is seeing the fruits of what cycling can bring.
All right, very good. Good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Now we go to Christopher Conover and this week's edition of Political Focus.
Arizona will have a smaller voice than hoped for at next week's GOP convention. The Republican National Committee stripped Arizona of half of its voting delegates because the state held the GOP presidential primary earlier than the RNC wanted. Officials with the Arizona Republican Party were hoping that as the time for the convention neared, RNC officials would relent and reinstate the delegates. That didn't happen. Bruce Ash, a Republican National Committeeman from Tucson, says despite the loss of the delegates, he still thinks the state made the right choice keeping the primary in February. 2 years ago, Phoenix was in the running to host this year's Republican National Convention. At the time, Ash says he raised the concern of hurricanes hitting Tampa if that city was awarded the convention. The National Hurricane Center says Tropical Storm Isaac could hit the Tampa area next week. And that's this week's Political Focus.
In tonight's video postcard from photographer Cooper James and editor Lauren Bays, we visit the University of Arizona Museum of Art, where students and local artists recently participated in recreating original wall art by artist Sol LeWitt.
I'm a first-year grad student in the Fine Arts program in the VisCom program, which is graphic design, and I really enjoy the artwork of Sol LeWitt. It's kind of special that we're actually getting to do this. They're actually bringing in people from Tucson to work on the project, which I think when they do that, it kind of grows and, you know, it kind of excites the whole community. A lot of people want to come in now and look at our work, and some people want to come watch us work, so I think it's building that nice relationship between the two. Just to be able to do it, whether it's a doodle or, you know, creating a song or something, that we all just have that desire and need to fulfill that desire. I think that's probably the pretty common thread, because I know if we don't do that, it makes life a little more tough for us and less enjoyable.
You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, we visit a historic building in Tucson with modern-day problems. Learn about the precious water on the Devil's Highway west of Tucson. And did you know that Julia Childs also had a fascination for cats? We'll talk to a Tucson author. I'm Tony Paniagua. From all of us at Arizona Public Media, have a great night.